Hey, help support the show by joining the Patreon or becoming a YouTube member. Also, hit that like button to subscribe if you want more Cavs-focused content. Hey, what's up, and welcome to QnA, the show where I take your questions and answer them here in video format. A ton of questions to get into. If you want your question to be read off and answered in this show, make sure you hit that subscribe button. You ding that notification bell so when I post a community prompt asking for these questions, you can then see it and then respond to it. If you get to it within 24 hours of that post being up, there's a good chance that I'm going to see that question and get it on the show here. All right, let's start with Corey. Says, should the Cavs go all in for Cam Johnson if they even have enough to get him? I think after the blowout loss to the Thunder, a lot of Cavs fans were more open to a trade. I don't want to be that reactionary, right? The reason the Cavs are having this success, at the very core of it, is because they trust and believed in what they built, right? Like, that's why the Cavs have had the success that they have had in the regular season. It is because they were not doing all of the knee-jerk reactionary things that people were suggesting that the Cavs should do during that period, right? Trade Jared Allen, trade Darius Garland from Brandon Ingram, all of these things that people threw out there that were reactions to how the Cavs were performing in a specific series or in a specific season. It would be very uncharacteristic of them, and I think they should not, at this point, after it worked out this well, go against what they've already doubled down on, which is you have doubled down on this core, you have doubled down on this team, and Cam Johnson is cool, but I don't think this team is Cam Johnson away. Like, if they end up not being able to win the finals, it's not going to be because they don't have Cam Johnson. It's going to be because there's bigger problems with the roster than just not having one guy in Cam Johnson. And if they're able to break through, then they're going to be able to break through regardless if they have Cam Johnson or not. I don't think Cam Johnson is the difference from being able to do that. That's just my opinion, right? I know a lot of people feel like Cam Johnson is the piece that can get the Cavs over the top. I don't necessarily think that's the case. So I think the Cavs should just, when you have the record the Cavs have or tied for the best record in the NBA, you should just stick with what got you to the dance, right? If you need to make a trade next year, make the trade next year, but just stick with what got you to the dance. That's what you got to do here, especially when sticking with what got you to the dance is what got you to the dance in the first place, if that makes sense. So, I don't think they should go look for a trade here. Rich says, is all the three-point shooting going to be the death of us come the playoffs? I don't think so, because the Cavs, they do shoot a lot of threes. They're in the top 5 in three-point attempts, but they're not like Boston. Boston shoots the most threes in the NBA by a significant margin per game, right? I think it's like Boston, and then there's a gap, and then 2, 3, 4, and then there's the Cavs. So, no, I don't think the Cavs are shooting too many threes. They're not at an egregious amount of three-point shots. They do have the tendency to heat up and go cold. They can be a little streaky from three at times, but I think they have demonstrated that they are able to win games versus good teams, even if they're not shooting amazing from three. I think they beat the Pacers one night. They were shooting like 30% from three. So, yeah, I don't think the Cavs team is as reliant as some people think on the three-point shots. And again, they get really good looks from three, right? So it's not really, I think, a problem that they need to be overly concerned about, because I think most of the time they're going to be able to shoot at least 35% from three. And if they're able to shoot at like that league average rate at 35%, then they're going to be fine, throughout the season with the three ball. Especially in the playoffs. So, I don't think this is a live by the three, die by the three team. They have a lot of other ways to get buckets that aren't just that. So, no, this ain't like the Rockets, right? I think people think of like the Rockets living and dying by the three. This is not the situation. Cavs don't shoot as many threes as them. Stephen Miller says, how do you expect the Cavs to respond after the loss to OKC? It looks like they have been a bit fatigued in the past few games. Do you think it's a momentary lull or a bigger issue? Well, I mean, this is kind of the period where a lot of teams, like this is the dog days of the NBA. If you look at what January to about the All-Star break, it's when the length of the season starts to take its toll on a lot of teams. And the Cavs are a young team, but they're not like as young as like Oklahoma City is. Oklahoma City is extremely young. So maybe that's something that kind of took place there. Also, I mean, it's just the truth with sports, basketball especially. You're going to have hot streaks. You're going to have cold streaks. The Cavs coming into that Oklahoma City game. I had talked about this before. Like, hey, we're not shooting the ball well, right? The Cavs weren't shooting the ball well. They had a couple of disastrous quarters as far as like getting a shot to go down against the Pacers. And then it happened again against Oklahoma City. And it was just one of those nights, right, where nothing was dropping for you. But that's not going to be the norm for this team, right? So no, I wouldn't take too much from it. I think it was just they had a horrible game, and Oklahoma City was shooting lights out, and they was balling, and we weren't balling. So they won, and they beat our ass. And I think that's just fair. But as far as like a long-term reflection on both of them, the same way like the Cavs won that first game against Oklahoma City didn't mean that Oklahoma City wasn't good. It's the same reason that like, oh, the Cavs losing Oklahoma City in Oklahoma City doesn't mean that the Cavs are bad or something like that. So, yeah, I just think it's more of a momentary lull, nothing to really take deep concerns out of. Dennis says, seems like the teams have started to figure out how to disrupt the team's rhythm as of late. How to defend us, what's the solution? I don't think that's the case. You know, I didn't see Oklahoma City was able to get a lot of turnovers because the Cavs were doing a lot of stuff to themselves to turn over the ball. Like, I didn't think Oklahoma City really forced a ton of turnovers. I think the Cavs got in their own way. And then they go up, they play the Timberwolves. They have a much better offensive output. I think this was just a team not playing at their highest level, not playing super crisp basketball. They were a little late here, a little late there. And versus a team like Oklahoma City, you're a little late here, you're a little late there. Bam, they're going to have the basketball. So it's just a bad day to have a bad day for the Cavs, I think, is more than likely what happened in that game. Noah says, I can't help but feel like George Niang is the weak link of this team. I felt like he's been synonymous with turning the ball over and making mistakes the last few weeks. I appreciate his size and passion, but what do you see the Cavs doing with him the rest of the season? This is an interesting point that's being made here by Noah, because George Niang has been pretty solid for you. But George Niang is the one guy in this rotation that one is likely to have to be in every rotation for the Cavs. So if the Cavs go to an 8-man rotation in the playoffs, George Niang's probably going to have to be in it because he's one of the few backcourt players that you can put in there, not backcourt, front court players that you can move on this roster, right? Like it's George Niang, it's Dean Wade, it's Evan Mobley, and it's Jared Allen. Those are going to be the guys in your front court rotation. So you don't really have a ton of flexibility there. So he's going to be in a rotation. And the thing with George is that he does have a tendency to have disastrous minutes. Like every once in a while, George will come out there and just throw up a shitter, right? Like a bad game, something you can't do nothing about. But like this year, especially, most of the time he's been out there, he's been fine. So, yeah, I do worry about that with George. I do, because you do have to play him as a wing sometimes. You do have to play him at the 4, especially with how you like to rotate in Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland to keep Evan and Jared on the floor, or Evan or Jared on the floor. He's the one guy that has to be out there for both. And I wish there was a better player we could have fulfill that role, because it's really just that erraticism that I'm worried about with George, right? The turnovers, when he takes like 17 shots for no damn reason. He's shooting like 12% from the floor. He is the one guy in this rotation where I'm like, kind of a wild card. Don't really know what to expect of him. When he's making threes, it's awesome, but sometimes he takes too many shots and he takes too many risks with the basketball. So yeah, don't know what to do with him, right? I wish you could upgrade from him. And maybe that's what bringing in somebody like Cam Johnson, like the guy mentioned with the trade earlier. Yeah, so maybe Cam Johnson could be the solution there. I don't know. I don't know. It's that's the one player that I'm like, if you do make a trade or you do get a buyout to make sure that you don't have to lean on this dude as much, yeah, George Niang is the guy. So I would definitely be interested in the buyout market. Don't know who's going to be available in the buyout market yet. That's going to be sometime around February where you're going to be able to figure that out. But yeah, George Niang is the one guy where I'm like, I want to be able to have somebody to go to in case George Niang is having one of those games, right? Or having one of those series. I think you need somebody to feel good about, right? Because you can't just put Tristan Thompson in that role. You're going to have all kind of problems with that lineup. So, yeah, buyout market trade, I would love to see if they can add something here that can give you more security in the role that George plays, being that like backup power forward and that stretch big, right? But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.